For a period of time, Father Christian and I had to help out at a different parish, and it was very difficult to maintain relationships. And when you try not to be like I don't know how to explain it, but like a people pleaser, it's hard to make everybody happy,
Yeah.
And so it's hard to remain, well liked. The idea that you're going to be liked by absolutely everyone is naive, and so I think understanding that you're to love these people no matter what, and we definitely had some hardships in our time, especially when Father Christian was ordained afterwards, with some difficulties and trying to cool the waters when waters were rough. Understanding, like, we look at Saint Nectarios and how he handled much of his persecutions, and that was an example for us to understand that we are to love and to pray for these people and to have the strength granted by God to move on and to get through the difficulties.
I think the inclination to want to make everyone happy is something that, like, I relate to, but as you mentioned, it could be like a trap a lot of the times. What would you recommend, like, for people who fall into that?
Yeah, it's difficult because and it falls, like, it's a shortcoming of mine to feel judged very quickly, and then to feel self-conscious about what other people think of me, and I worry a lot, and I'm sure that other people go through that as well. And it's hard. You want to maintain an image. You want to present yourself in a certain way to people. But sometimes that can rub somebody off the wrong way, or something you say could be taken or mistaken. And so it is difficult because and I'm one of those people who will sit there and think of something I have said in the past, or think of something I did in the past and think, wow, that was a terrible thing to say. And then I would just mull over that and let that consume me. And it becomes this obsession over, what does that person think of me now? Or what is that, and so, or, you make a decision and somebody doesn't like that decision. I think that when you understand that if what you're doing is following the will of God, you tell yourself that if this is His will, this is what I think that this is the right thing to do, or this is His will. When you're doing it for the Lord instead of the other people, anybody else, that's important. Because if you let yourself be consumed by what people think of you, then I don't know. I think there's a better way to say what I'm trying to say. I just don't have exactly the right, advice to give. Obviously, you would go through your spiritual father. Maybe you can guide me with more questions.
That kind of reminds me of, like, how, like, Jesus says when you pray behind, like, closed doors.
Yes.
So that only the Father hears, or what was it, like, do not let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. Make sure to focus on God and make that your priority.
Yeah. And I would also say it is challenging because you start to not only have these feelings of about yourself, like the self-consciousness, but then you start to resent the other person for feeling that way, and it's easy to fall. That's another trap. You start to think, well, that person should be a little more understanding of me, or and you begin to judge as well, like, or I do, like another shortcoming. I'll start to think like, oh, that other person, why couldn't they be more understanding, or why couldn't they be more, and that's not right. You can't help that. You can't help what other people think and what other people do. You can't control that. Father Christian always reminds me of a quote, and I don't remember who says it and where it comes from, but he said that the greatest surfers do not create their own waves. And
Ooh.
yes, you can't control what other people think and what other people do. You can only control how you react. And so when you are faced with those situations, you have to think, maybe take a moment to think, how should I pastorally and correctly respond to this person? You know, because I know I have my opinions and my desires and my directions of where things are going. This person doesn't agree. How will I respond in such a way that, you know, doesn't, not to say like not offend them, but to lovingly tell them, no, this is who I am, you know, and this is my decision, and your decision or your opinions are also, you know, I understand your opinions are valid. To lovingly approach these situations and everything with love, you know. Even St. Porphyrios says it, St. Nectarios did the same thing. He approached every situation with love. And I think that's something that's difficult to do, because all these situations happen in moments, you know, very quick moments. And to take that moment to take a step back, we have to like think internally, okay, what would Christ think if he was standing here having this conversation with us? Yeah.
As you mentioned, like being in like those quick moments, that's something that's very hard to do sometimes. I feel like there's sometimes for me, it's hard to step back. Like it's something that's easy to forget